What's up, everybody? This is Mico the Entrepreneur, and I am here with two people from the insurance industry. So, if this is something that you want to hear, you have comments, you have questions, go ahead and set this time aside so you can be able to listen to both Alton and Darren. We're going to go ahead and get started. But before we get started, I do want to say thank you guys for letting me meet you at the African American Chamber of Commerce. So I'm glad that I met them there. And yeah, we're about to talk about this insurance. We might talk about different insurance, but we're going to talk about that. And we're going to let Darren go first. Darren.
Hey,
So
what's up,
Darren,
Mico?
can you tell how you doing? Can you tell me how many years you have in the industry, how you got started, and why would people want to get information from you about insurance?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a really good question. So first phase of that is I have nearing 20 years of professional experience. Why I got into the industry was because I wanted to be able to affect and enact positive, tangible change for people directly on their personal lives and especially business owners. My background is in business, so management all the way into ownership and also business consulting, building businesses for people and assisting them in scaling. So that kind of just segues directly into the third leg of your question, and that's the reason for someone why they should sit down and have a conversation with myself or Alton here is because a lot of things that are capable of being implemented into the back end of a business in the sense of tax diversification, risk diversification, write-offs, just all sorts of different things, employee benefits and things like that. It all stems from just sitting down and having a general conversation with us, because in the midst of you getting just basic information, it's going to invoke more questions and thoughts automatically in your mind. We see it every day, where someone will say, geez, I never thought of that, or what you said there made me think of this. And honestly, it's just sitting down having a conversation. We're not salespeople, so we're not looking to sell you anything. Our main goal is to just provide knowledge and information to people, so then that way they have the ability of going further in a better way, rather than going into a situation blindly, or just potentially not even ending up in a situation where they should be. That's honestly a perfect segue into the reason as to why people should sit down and talk with us. And it's mainly just because it should just be a conversation with someone in our industry. We're not salespeople, we're advisors, we're consultants. We're there to really figure out what you have going on, work with you, and custom tailor and fit whatever could potentially, be a need for you. But it also is the reason of we're in this to be able to provide correct and accurate information to people.
Okay.
So if you don't know these things inside and out like we do, it benefits just to have the conversation, because we find, at least, what would you say, 8, 9 on times out of 10, that in just a regular general conversation, something that we say or some information that we give or a question that we answer, it automatically invokes more thought with the potential client that we're sitting down with, and stirs up more questions, and the conversation goes further and further and further.
Mhm.
And that's extremely beneficial, because there's so many different things that we're able to do that is such a benefit that people have no idea about, that they think some of the things that we do, like life insurance products, for instance, are only meant to, be left for your loved ones, when realistically there's multiple other ways that you can utilize those. So it really just benefits people to sit down, have a conversation, get to know us, and we get to know them, because we ultimately want everybody that we do talk with, whether we do business with you or not, we would like people to understand that we are trustworthy people, and we would like to be able to just develop relationships, whether it means business or not. Just developing relationships is extremely enriching.
Right. Okay. Uh, Alton, you want to go ahead and say how long you've been in the industry and why people should sit down and have a conversation with you, and what made you want to get into insurance?
Gotcha. Okay. So I've been in the financial industry now for over 14 years. What got me into the industry? Just helping out more people that look like us. Honestly, there's a lot of situations. I know I've had two uncles who passed, not recently, but just, I guess you would say, out of the blue. You weren't expecting them to. And they have a lot of kids, and those kids didn't really have anything to left over. You know, my uncles and aunts had to crowdsource and all that stuff, you know, funeral costs and things like that. But it's more so just, you know, seeing what's left after that. I think a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, have this mindset of, you know, well, I was young, I struggled, you know, my kids are young, they can struggle too. I don't have that mindset. I love my daughter. I'm one of those parents to where I would like her to have every single advantage possible, so that she can start off way ahead of where I did. And, you know, unfortunately, in our community, you don't see that a lot. You see a lot of the struggle bus generationally, over and over and over again. And I just think that doesn't have to be the case. It's okay to set your kids up better than what you were, and kind of progress out of those situations. And there's a lot of ways to do it. So that's kind of what got me into the industry. As far as why someone should work with us, I think the best reason is just because we take a very different approach to what we do. 90% of the time, it's very hard for us to even recommend anything the first time we sit with you. It's usually 2-3 conversations down the road. And that's really all we do, is just recommend. So we can't sell you anything. We have very strict licenses and things like that. We would just make a recommendation, and, you know, if you felt like it was going to be beneficial to you, fantastic. But I tell people this story all the time. I was in a meeting at work. This person calls, you know, my boss, and my boss had known this person for 7 years. This person had referred multiple people to my boss. One day, 7 years later, they're like, all right, I want to work with you. Sometimes that's how it happens. Wow. So I agree wholeheartedly with Darren. We make a lot of relationships. We know a lot of different people. There's folks that we work with that have nothing to do with insurance. We're just trying to help them do better in their lives. We have contacts. We want to give them those contacts. So I would say if you're looking to sit down and meet with someone who would generally have your best interest at heart, that's probably the best reason to talk with us.
Okay. So I know that for some people like myself, term life and whole life insurance. So for someone who's watching this right now, and that's probably one of their questions, you know, can you explain to them what's the difference in having term life insurance versus whole life?
Yeah. So
Either one.
the best way that I think both of us explain this to our clients the same way, because we have a lot of mutual clients that we work with jointly together, because we both specialize in different areas. But the easiest way that we explain it, just on the basic starting, you know, level, is term life insurance is like, think about it like renting an apartment or a home. You know, it's good for, you know, a term, right, where it's a lower cost. You can potentially have a higher death benefit that would be paid out to your loved ones. But on the other side of it, there is no cash value accruing that you could utilize while you're alive. Now, a caveat to that is, with us during term life, while that term life is going, let's say you started it, you know, 4 years ago, and at the end of this year, it's going to be 5 years. you've got 5 years of credits that have been building that now we can convert over into a permanent life policy. So permanent life policies are your traditional whole life, custom whole life, which custom whole life is essentially starting out at a tailored level before you start tailoring even more. Whole life is starting out at just kind of like a basics at whole life, and then you tailor it from there. Custom whole life tends to, gain some cash value a little bit better most times, but not all. It's not, guaranteed, but based on history, it has. So permanent is the one that you have for your entire life. You get it the youngest you can possibly get it.
Yes.
It's the cheapest it will ever be at that point. It grows cash value, and you are supposed to be utilizing it, which there's multiple different strategies with utilizing those permanent policies, but you utilize them as they grow for other means of cash accrual and investments and things like that. The term is you have it in case something happens. You're, like Alton was saying just a second ago, your kids aren't left with debt. They're left with, security and an asset for them. That's the best way that I think both of us kind of explained it pretty similarly.
Yeah. The only thing that I would add to that I have to harp on, you have to qualify.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry about that. That's a good point.
And I only say this because I cannot tell you how many times I will get messages from clients and friends about a YouTube video that they saw or something that they saw on Facebook and be like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, no. that's A, it's not legal, and B, that's not good for you. So you do have to qualify. But because you have to qualify, that's why it's so important. If it's something that you're serious about, you want to start this as young as possible. There's no quote unquote age requirement to it, but you do want to start this as young as possible. I started my daughter's when she was 4. I know a lot of people that start even earlier than that. It's just so much better. The younger that you start, the earlier that you start, not just age, but just like the earlier. If you're thinking about it now, do it now. Insurance age changes every 6 months, not every year. So your insurance age will change every 6 months. So yeah, it can get to a situation where you wait and then you cost yourself extra money. But yeah, you do have to qualify. So this is not printing money.
Now, I have a question because I know sometimes with different people it's frowned upon with, okay, I'm going to put my newborn on, I'm going to have life insurance for my newborn, but your baby is not here yet. I know with some people it's kind of come across like it's frowned upon where, wow, you're doing that so soon, shouldn't you wait? Do you tell like women who are expecting like, hey, this is something you should do now, or should you wait till the child is born?
So that's a great question. And we're laughing because that's the type of person that we keep trying to get in front of, but we get stonewalled.
Oh, really?
From well, we try to reach out to birthing classes and doulas and maternity wards and things like that. We're 2 guys, so most of the time they don't really want to talk to us. I get it. If there's any nurses watching, it's perfectly fine. I get it. You're going through a tough enough process as it is having a baby. The last thing you want to do is talk to a life insurance guy. But yes, that is something that you want to start as early as possible. Now, one caveat to that is you can't actually get insurance on a unborn child because it's not a person yet, contrary to what Florida thinks. So
edit that part out.
Well, I mean, it's the law.
But edit that part out. We're not getting into
I'm leaving it. I love
social
it.
politics.
It's okay.
So
I'm leaving
you
it.
cannot, and I believe it's 3 weeks.
It's 15 days from the date. 15 days from the date of birth.
Yeah,
and it's also contingent upon the initial checkup.
Yes.
So 15 days. I tell people, I joke and I say, I should be in the top 5 people that's called after your baby is born
Mm-hmm.
and the first initial check is completed and everything is good,
Mm-hmm.
to get the paperwork started for your child's policy. If you
Mhm.
started at that point, it's literally, and this isn't like some infomercial, it's literally pennies a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And with that too, you're helping out your kid because so many people develop all sorts of issues as they grow up in life. And those issues will make it so that you are not able to be insured. You're uninsurable at that point.
Okay.
And so if you start that policy when they're at their youngest, if those issues do arise, that policy can't be canceled. So, well, the insurance company can't cancel it. Obviously, you as the owner can do whatever you want, but the insurance company can't cancel it. So you're
Do
really
you
protecting your
need
kid. There's a lot of people.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So once the child is at least 15 days old, 3 weeks to be on the safe side. And as long as there's no serious health concerns, like they're not in the ICU, they haven't been diagnosed with any sort of like immediate conditions, heart issues, brain damage, things like that. The checkup goes well at that moment, all the way up until whenever you can start a policy. But you will need an issued birth certificate and you will need an issued Social Security, and that's just to make sure that they can confirm that they are obviously a U.S. citizen.
Okay. Now, that's my next question.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't want to get political, but let's just say the parents are from another country,
Mm-hmm.
but she was um, pregnant in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and she's trying to get life insurance.
Yeah. So the good news is there's options for both. So even if the parents
Okay.
are from another country, they have options. If they wanted to get insurance on the child, as long as the child, again, is born in the U.S., they're at least 15 days old, they have Social Security, they have birth certificate, that's also something that they can do as well. That situation, though, is definitely a situation where you would want to sit down and speak with us, because obviously you want to navigate that situation to where you get the most benefits, but you don't put yourself at risk for, deportation or whatever it might be.
Okay. How, Darren, life, how many insurance products are under your belt and which products you sell the most?
Right. So so before I answer this, I kind of want to like just back up just just a touch on something so I don't forget. And that's as far as the placing a policy on your child as soon as possible, or at least having that conversation while the pregnancy is still ongoing. I want to harp on this just because we both have kids and we both have family members who have opted to not do this. And then we've both had to go through situations to where we've now seen a young family member, a child, like uninsurable for the rest of their life, or have something happen to where nothing was able to really be done. It's huge. And that's not even the only example. We recently just seen a couple who they are now having to, unfortunately, just struggle mentally because they did policies on themselves when their son was 2 or 3 years old, and they thought they could just wait a little while. They wanted, money wasn't tight, but they also didn't want to make it tight, which we went over their finances, made sure everything would be good and it wouldn't get tight, but they still opted to wait. Fast forward, their son then now comes to find out has a heart condition that has just now started to develop and show itself at almost 4 years old. So now there's nothing as far as like life insurance. They didn't lock in the child's insurability when they could have. They didn't lock it in when it could have been cheaper. Like, just now the child has to go through life with having to deal with just not having any type of insurability.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's way more troubling than some people would think. It has like long lasting ripple effects further than what you would immediately think. So that's why I just want to back up for a second, kind of give that external example outside of our own personal examples, and just give, you know, the audience or potential listeners the chance to hear an example of what we've seen. And that's just one example. We see these examples far more than fingers and toes can count on, I would say, like a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So it's prevalent that people wait things out thinking that time is on their side. But the last time I checked is time doesn't regenerate. So, you know.
Yeah, we just had I had one Monday, speaking to another coworker. They weren't able to be insured because of weight, and it was a teenage child. So
Really?
yeah, so it's a lot of things. So it's just the earlier you can get it done, the better. In those situations, help your kids out. Like I said, give them a leg up.
Yeah.
Darren, before you answer the question, I just want to say to the audience, if what we just talked about, if you're in that situation right now, expecting mothers or mothers who just had a child, less than 15 days old, leave a comment right now in the chat, or if you're watching this on a replay, leave a comment so either Darren or Alton can go back and reply, and they can have a meeting with you if you have additional questions. All right, Darren.
Thank you, Mico. Appreciate that. So yeah, coming back to your question as far as the amount of products that we have in our entire suite and what is kind of the most frequently used or deployed, I would say we're probably over 20 to 30. I'd say 20 to 30 products. Inside of that, there's almost an infinite number of strategies as far as combinations and iterations. And obviously scenario, person, you know, everything like that comes into play. I'd say the most frequently utilized that we personally use based on our client base and conversations that we have is between term life insurance, permanent life insurances, and also fixed deferred annuities, which ties into the pre-retiree or retired category, like age group of people. Because as you get closer to that retirement age, like, or gearing up towards your retirement years. So for me, my clients, we have this conversation right around 45 to 50 years old is let's start getting some of these things switched over and in more of a fixed deferred, kind of more so of a guaranteed or safer product base. That's when we start that conversation and we switch that over, because, you know, you want to take a good, at least like 10 years to really like build up your retirement as strong as what you think you're going to have it in your head. Because there's way more than what people do consider. Most people think, oh, I got a 401k. Oh, I got a 401k, you know, maybe a pension or a 401k and an IRA. I should be good. I got a couple investments. There's way more to that. And then also inside of that, the strategy and how you deploy those things once the retirement hits.
Okay.
So I'd say those are the top three, wouldn't you? Those are the top three.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would add is when you're looking at any of these situations, you have to understand that you can have two similar people and two very completely different things. So I had a couple where the husband was the breadwinner, for lack of a better word. He made a lot of money. And the wife worked, but she worked part-time. So you're not going to set up the exact same financial plan for both of them.
Okay.
So, you know, God forbid anything happened to the husband, that's going to be a lot of income, a lot of resources to replace, as opposed to, you know, if something happened to the wife. But what the husband doesn't think of is if something happens to the wife, he's not replacing income, but he is replacing other things. Who's watching your children? Who's taking care of, you know, little things like the lawn getting mowed and, you know, other things like that.
Groceries.
A lot of people, you know, like a lot of people think, oh, that's no big deal. But if you go from, you know, my wife is taking care of this and now I'm hiring a lawn guy, or I'm hiring a tutor, or I'm hiring this, that adds up.
Yeah,
And everybody knows it's not how much money you make, it's how much you take home.
right.
And just to add on, to that, this is a situation that I've seen quite often with couples when I sit down with them is, what if in the scenario something happens to the wife, which, you know, in Alton's scenario didn't make as much, but also did more things outside. But previous to them getting together and married, she had student loans. The husband, who made more money, had most of his student loans paid off or wasn't really worried about them because he was paying them consistently based on income. And the wives, they were just kind of chipping at it away consistently. It didn't really matter because the husband made so much money. Well, guess what? Like, when something happens to the wife, now automatically you're on the hook for it. Automatically transfers. You're on the hook for that. And now it's not a matter of, oh, well, he's still making money, so he can still, you know, pay that off. No, it's the mind state you're in at that point. And then also the fact that you're going to end up pulling that out of other assets to get it paid off, rather than it could have just been automatically incorporated in and taken care of with her death benefit. So then it did pull away from something else. Because I have had a couple of clients that they did end up having to pull away from other things, and they didn't realize they could have deployed a different strategy.
Okay. Good. All right. I'm going to let Darren, because Alton, we can talk until, and that's, it'll be 3 hours. No, you're so passionate, and you are too, Darren, but Alton is passionate. So I'm tired. He gets to talking. This will be like 3 hours.
We'll never finish. I get it. It's fine.
Right. So just briefly, Darren, can you tell us the differences between a Roth IRA, 401k, and a pension? Because most people, especially the younger people, they're not going to know what a pension is. You know what I mean? So if you can briefly just talk about, I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes for all three. If you could just explain what they are and the differences and what comes from an employer or what comes from being a small business owner, entrepreneur, like that.
Right. So very generally and very basically, Roths are your deferred. So that doesn't mean that you're not being taxed. It's just taxed later on. IRAs can tie in, but they're not for everyone. Pensions, I don't even know that touching on pensions is worth it, because there's not really
phasing
any
out.
They're pretty much gone. Like, we could just say that now.
Union based mostly.
Yeah, they're being switched over, and even with the unions, they're being switched over to like deferred comp plans, which that's a completely different conversation. So I don't even know that mentioning pensions is even worth taking any of that time on. But 401s, 401s, I'll say, they're a good thing to look into when you sit down with one of us. They're a good thing to ask more questions about and take a really in-depth look at how does it work for you if you already have one. What strategies are there available to you in utilizing that at the later date, in maximizing it as much as possible. The same thing with IRA, looking into it. There's multiple different kinds of IRAs as well. So, it's just really sitting down to see what do you have going on, how your life is structured, what your goals are, and what your current strategies, and then building off of that and kind of, if need, retool it as such, and then build off of that and work it back into the direction that you need to be going in the most efficient way possible. And one thing to add into this, and I'm adding this in because I just had a conversation with a gentleman who is a pre-retiree yesterday. He started the conversation with his CPA. His CPA CPA just only wants to worry about CPA stuff, so doing his taxes and his business's taxes. He's been working with another financial advisor that he's like part of a networking group, and that financial advisor kind of got him and his wife to start IRAs. Okay, nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with that, but in just asking more questions and just talking with him for probably a good 20, 30 minutes, I found that there were so many missing components that should have already been talked about with that other advisor at the time of starting that IRA, or actually before even starting that IRA, because in our opinion, we could have started out with something different, but before deploying that. But also in the sense of having a conversation with that advisor and his CPA, it makes so much sense to plug in all of your people with each other. Set up a dinner meeting, set up a phone call, a Zoom, introduce them via email and CC everybody. There needs to be that conversation and communication, because we find clients, and there's also other advisors here at our firm, that we all see so much overlap, but then we also see so many gaps. And it's because of lack of communication between one advisor and another advisor, or an advisor and a CPA, or an advisor and an estate lawyer. We see so many gaps and so much overlap that the client has no visibility of, really, because they're not in this professional space. Even the most savvy clients who know quite a bit of these things still don't have any real visibility into this space, and they end up with gaps or overlap. And overlap is just another way of saying that you're paying too much money for what you're doing. That doesn't make any sense, because then you could be putting that money into an investment, or into a vacation, or into a new vehicle, or whatever it is,
Right.
And the only thing I would add is that these are typically just considered long-term retirement accounts.
Yeah. Long-term strategy. All three of those things are incorporated into your retirement planning that we mentioned earlier.
Okay. I feel bad. Okay, Alton, I got a question.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh.
All right. So look,
go ahead. You want the
question,
camera?
No.
One question for you. So do you think it's a good idea for parents to have a Roth IRA or IRA for their young child?
Personally speaking, and then I'll give you my professional opinion. Personally speaking, I have so many things set up for my daughter. It's ridiculous. Every time I tell her I set something up, she kind of looks at me with a blank stare. She's only 12. But me personally, I have so many things set up for her. Professionally speaking, you can never have too much. I'm just one of those parents where I believe it's my job to work as hard as I can just so she can have the best life possible. But even if you're not of that mindset, because children are so young and you're projecting out that they're going to have years and years of working experience and all this, it just makes it easier to set up any sort of financial product. It just is. And I know it sounds crazy, but the difference between someone who's 16 and someone who's 18 in the insurance world is huge. It doesn't seem like a huge difference age-wise, maturity-wise, and all that. But in the insurance world, those two are like two completely different things. So the more things that you can do for your child, absolutely do it. If it makes sense for you financially, if it makes sense for you when you speak to someone about it, definitely do it. Because again, they don't need to struggle. There's definitely ways where you can teach them how to be a good person and set them up financially for success.
Can you adopt me? I need a new daddy.
Listen, we'll throw some recommendations out there for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with my son. He's about to turn 11. We have so many things set up for him already that by the time he's 21 years old, he won't have to fill out job applications if he doesn't want to or need to. Obviously, he's going to work you know, because I'm still your dad. So, but
Right.
you know, it's going to be a whole lot easier of a journey financially speaking and security speaking, especially as a young Black man. It's going to be way easier for him than some others because of, and they're not even considered sacrifices, they're considered smart investments.
That's exactly
for your
what you're
kids'
doing.
future.
Yes,
People think it's
investing in your child.
Right. People think it's sacrificing, you know, like it's another bill. It's not a bill, it's an investment. You know, and to that too, that there's other kinds outside of your 401 and your traditional IRA. There's other kinds of IRAs specifically for kids, and especially for business owners. That you know, and personally, there's some of those things that are set up for my son already as well. So every type of strategy that is able to be deployed and utilized within, you know, tax code and like staying fully compliant and away from any thin lines, we've deployed for our son. So it's use all of your tools that are out there and you're capable of.
Absolutely.
Now, this kind of leads me into this as well. Anybody who does hear this or sees this, don't come to us with, "Hey, I've got $100,000. Let's do all these things." Because no matter what, you have to start from a certain point, and then work your way to where you want to get. Now, we can kind of fast track that a little bit because you already have a nest egg, but don't come thinking like you can just throw money and have, you know, and walk away with a whole Amazon store. Like, you know, full of stuff. Yeah. 100% you can. 100% will give you everything, you know, that you should have based on what you want to do. But just don't think that it's all going to be like you get this and this and this and this same day. It's you have to sequence it properly.
Yeah. A lot of those things too are long term. So a lot of them are going to kick in when your kid's 18, 21, 25. Those sorts of things. But like I said, it's just starting your kids off on a better financial foot. It's the one thing, this is a pet peeve of mine, and I don't know if anyone else shares it, but I hate when I see online classes for financial literacy, because I'm like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Because you can't be financially literate if you have no money. Seriously, like it makes no sense. Like
generational wealth.
It makes no sense to have those classes when people are struggling, and people are allowed to struggle. I'm not saying anything bad about that, but I'm like, if someone's struggling and then you're trying to have a class on financial literacy, my financial literacy is I want to eat tomorrow. So, I mean,
I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a pet peeve of mine. I really don't like it. Whenever I'm online, I'm looking at it. I hate seeing those. I'm like, that's just so silly. But it is much easier to have that conversation if you set your kids up financially well, and then that question is not how do I have financial literacy, it's how do I use this money smartly. And that's a much different conversation, and so that's more so what I'm getting at.
Okay, well, let's take this last 5 minutes to Darren, you can go first. Tell people where they can find you on social media. I know you're going to give me the information where it's going to be in the bottom of the description, but just to say it.
Yep. Yeah. So first off, there's levels to this, but we got the ladder, so you'll get there. My name's Darren, Darren. Last name Padgett, Padgett. Right on Facebook, and that's pretty much about it right now. You can email or phone us, which our contact information will, you know, I imagine, like you said, you'll be putting it in the bio. So I don't want to, you know, list it off where people think they got to scramble and write it down. It'll be right listed for you in the bio.
Okay.
Or the description of the video, I should say.
Alton?
Yeah, so my name is Alton Scott. I'm sure you'll see that in there as well. You can find me on Facebook. I am a proud old man. I do not have social media. It took me a very long time to get this Facebook. So just look for my big head, and that'll be me. When you find me, but email and phone call is going to work better. Shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm always on my phone. That's probably going to be a lot faster. I think I was on Facebook Sunday. I had like 70 something notification. I never get on that thing.
I can
But
believe
I mean,
it.
if you find me, I will respond. Just don't be surprised if it's a little slow.
Yeah, I don't know about all. Well, actually, I do know about all of them, but I feel like email is probably going to be your best bet to send an
Yes.
email, because all of our communications are going to, like, once you reach out and contact us, all our communications are going to be in email, probably because of compliance. Sending a text message or a phone call is completely fine to, like, say, to introduce yourself, like, hey, I sent you an email, just wanted to send you a text message to follow up and let you know. That's perfectly great. And it just makes it a whole lot easier, because I do a ton of Zooms because I'm licensed in 8 states. So
Yeah,
Okay.
email, phone call, I'm all for it. But Facebook exists if that's your bag.
Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and close out. I want to say thank you, Alton and Darren, for having this discussion. I know it's going to be, even if this interview touched one person, if one person saw it and was like, you know what, I'm an expecting mother, or I know someone's, having a baby right now and they need life insurance, or parents are in another country and just so happen, they're here in the US and they need life insurance. So if you have comments, questions for both Darren and Alton, please leave them below. They will respond. Also, if you're watching this on the replay, make sure you do the same. If you know someone this interview can help other people, please share this interview and have them to subscribe to the channel, like the channel. And then also leave a comment, and because I know it's a lot of questions, and then just getting your child prepared to have different insurance products. I mean, you can learn a lot. So go ahead and reach out to both of them, have this meeting, and then go from there. But I want to say thank you for everyone who's watching. Thank you for supporting me, and I will see you guys in the next interview.